Minister, as I start, I want to acknowledge the role you played in bringing an independent review group about, and I want to acknowledge the work of your department in the support it gave in every way. However, the brave men of Jadotville, along with their families and loved ones, have been dishonoured and treated abominably for 60 years by the Defence Forces in Ireland. Nothing in this report of the Independent Review Group on Jadotville published today seeks to undo or redress the wrong. Shamefully, it piles further pain, humiliation and suffering on the surviving veterans of Jadotville and dishonours the memories of the deceased Jadotville veterans. The comments I'm making now come from a variety of sources that have been contacting me today, last night, and I can tell you the anger out there is unbelievable. The Irish 35th Battalion in the Congo, which Jadotville A Company belonged to, were part of a larger UN military component, a brigade which was a UN Indian-led brigade. At the time, the whole UN force in the Congo was led by an Irish general, of which the Indian-led brigade was a subordinate component part. I am told immediately prior to the fateful dispatch of A Company to Jadotville, two other infantry companies, one Irish and one Swedish, had been stationed in Jadotville but were quickly withdrawn by the Indian Brigade commander. A colonel with credible intelligence was provided to him that even two companies of soldiers were hopelessly outnumbered by assembling combined forces of Katanga, Gadamer and international mercenaries, hell-bent on attacking the UN forces in Jadotville and reclaiming the town. I understand that the sequence of events and unorthodox orders given directly to the Irish battalion by the Irish force commander, bypassing proper channels of command and the Indian Brigade commander, are at the root of this ill-fated deployment of A Company to Jadotville. Why the Irish force commander in this instance violated the proper chain of command when the Jadotville deployment of A Company subsequently went wrong became a centrepiece of not wishing to delve too deeply into the Jadotville in the Defence Forces Medals Board in the 1960s, lest the ugly truth be revealed. Both the Irish Force Commander and the Irish Battalion Commander in the Congo at the time were close personal friends and not just military colleagues. Both were from the same rural part of Ireland. I further understand that those who had erred in their flawed decision-making and subsequent issuing of unorthodox orders in the Congo and who used personal friendships with Irish personnel then stationed in the Congo to have these flawed orders carried out were subsequently in a position of high authority in Ireland when the 1960s Medal Board set. The so-called Independent Review Group report we are now discussing and the Jadotville Medals Board in the 1960s, when the terms of reference are carefully crafted and the membership of the boards are friendly forces, to use a military term, then the required partisan findings of the group and boards by convening authorities can all but be guaranteed as a tactic as old as time itself. But in the case of the so-called Independent Review Group, another worrying factor... Sorry?
You on the issue of privilege in the House. I want to remind you of the issue of privilege in the House in the event that you are going to name anybody.
I will not name anybody.
That's okay. Thank you.
I hope you had on the time for me now.
I will. I'll give you time.
Thank you. The close military friendships commissioned officers have with their cadets, classmates, while undergoing officer training in the military college. But even within these special friendships, there are always deeper friendships within a small number of fellow classmates. The 44th cadet class of 1969 to 71 was no different in this. It must be stated by me here tonight that within the 44th cadet class, that one of these deepest personal friendships was and which remains is between the son of the aforementioned Irish Force Commander in the Congo and the chair of the Independent Review Group, whose report we are now discussing.
Can I just...
I haven't named anybody.
No, Senator, the rule is clear. It's not only do you have to name somebody, but you also make them identifiable.
Very good.
Right? And I'm warning you on that issue.
I'll try.
No, you've breached it already. I just want to warn you. I take on board what people have said about the criticism of the Seanad in that report, and I will be taking it up with the people. I will be writing to the people who wrote the report on behalf of the Seanad, because our job as a Senate is to air issues of concern. I don't care if that's about the Defence Forces or about the church or anybody. That is your job. I expect you to do that job. And while a report may criticise us, it must criticise us fairly. But they must recognise that the job of public representative is to represent the public. And that is what you did on this occasion. But I also remind senators they have a duty.
Cathaoir, look, I'm obliged at this stage to point out that I have spoken to the son of one of the actors in Jadotville, who asked the chairman of the board to recuse himself based on the relationships that exist. I'm bound to point that out. And
I just want to remind you of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
The process of investigating recommendations for the awarding or declining and the award of military medals falls exclusively within the statutory responsibility of the Defence Forces leadership. It is notable that the independent review group was not mandated or formed within the remit of the said Defence Forces regulations on the award of military medals. It was a process that was ultimately brought about by the intervention of politicians. It is risible then to note that unworthy comment in the report on politicians who were and are rightfully vocal on honouring the heroes of Jadotville. In not engaging with the investigation group, no invitation was issued to me or to any senator that I know to engage with the review group. The recommendation of the posthumous award of a Distinguished Service Medal DSM to Commandant Pat Quinlan, this charismatic and brave commander of A Company 35th Irish Battalion in the Congo, is noteworthy. Incredibly, the group report does not agree with the award of medals recommended by Commandant Quinlan for the other 33 members of the company for their valour and bravery in Jadotville. This is quite astonishing. The group sees fit to honour Commandant Quinlan, but somehow to dishonour him and his judgment when it comes to the field commander citing men for bravery. One must surely follow the other. It makes no sense other than the unthinkable of the group seeking to applaud the Quinlan family, who have led the fight for proper honouring of these men and their families for decades. Pat Quinlan was a man of honour. He would be dismayed and dishonoured, at honouring him to the detriment of his fellow soldiers. The one thing I can tell you, Minister, tonight, the Jadotville heroes that exist today, those whether they're listed for medals or not, they loved Pat Quinlan. I have never met anybody who served that did not love Pat Quinlan. The independent review group has veterans and members of had veterans and as an advisor who are themselves veterans and currently members of 3 recognised Defence Force veterans groups, ARCO, ONE and IUNVA. The negative and inevitable explosive consequence of this flawed report will cause upset, dissension within and between all 3 organisations. It will also sadly cause unnecessary rupture and discord between serving and retired commissioned officers, their NCOs and private soldiers. This is regrettable in the extreme. For those serving and retired, at a time of great and increasing difficulties for the Defence Forces, it could and should have been avoided. The award of a DSM, at one time a badge of honour, in the Defence Forces for those who carried out acts of individual or collective valour, bravery, decision-making of the highest order when faced with hostile actions, an imminent threat to life and limb, on the saving of life on land, at sea or in the air, at home or overseas deployments. Sadly, the award of DSM medal has been itself dishonoured in recent times for being continuously awarded to most senior officers of the Defence Forces on their retirement, merely for having occupied the highest rank of the Defence Forces, for little else of note. The citation attached to these recent DSM medal awards are a matter of public record and cringeworthy in the extreme. By comparison, these flawed citations make the brave men of Jadotville seem like superheroes, which they were. The attack by Japan on Pearl Harbor on the 6th of December 1941, before the formal declaration of war by Japan and the USA, has been described as the day of infamy. In military history. Today's publication of this report in Ireland's Day of Infamy. It's a proud military history. Those associated with the report will soon be forgotten, and we will be left to remember their part in it. The heroes of Jadotville will live on in the memory forever, and rightly so. Minister, Every time I go to Galway, I meet Charlie Cooley. Charlie Cooley was nominated for a DSM. And every time I meet Charlie, he says to me, "Craughwell, where's my feckin' medal?" When I saw the report this morning, Minister, I will tell you something. As one who served in that unit, I cried. I cannot believe you opened the door to allow the Defence Forces to undo the greatest wrong in the history of this state. And I admire you greatly for it. It took great courage. And what did they do? They screwed it up, and they couldn't have done it worse if they tried. They have set officers against men. The number of enlisted personnel and former enlisted personnel who have contacted me today and said to me, "I always told you, Craughwell, it's only a feckin' officer's army." What am I going to say to them? What can I say to them? I told them about the parade in September that you were organising. They said they wanted nothing to do with it. It is such a heartbreaking day for 33 families. Tell the Quinlevins, whose brother killed himself, that he wasn't worth his DSM. I don't know what to say. I admire you for what you did. I am so desperately sorry, because the allegations of conflict of interest on that board that were there from the beginning are coming at me left, right and centre from Australia, Indonesia, America, England, you name it. I'm sorry.
All right, sir.